Hello there. Welcome to this quiet space where curiosity drifts freely and time moves gently. Before we begin tonight's journey, if you find yourself drawn to these explorations, leaving a like helps other like-minded travelers discover this space. You're also warmly invited to share in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you. And if you'd like to continue wandering with me on future journeys, subscribing ensures you can join us as we explore the mysteries of our world and beyond. Tonight, we turn our attention upward toward a companion that has silently circled our world for billions of years. The moon, often taken for granted, it is a constant presence, yet it is quietly extraordinary. It has witnessed the slow unfolding of life on Earth, the rise and fall of civilizations, the ebb and flow of oceans, and the shifting of continents. To look at it is to look at the passage of time itself, a gentle reminder of continuity amid transformation. Imagine standing in the quiet of a night, the air cool against your skin, and lifting your gaze toward its pale, silver surface. Craters ripple across it like faint scars, shadows stretch across plains, shaped by impacts unimaginably long ago, and its far side remains hidden, a mystery to all who dwell beneath its light. Every ridge, every mark, is a subtle record of a violent and patient history, and yet its presence is serene, its orbit unwavering, its influence slow but undeniable. The moon is a witness and a guide. Its gravitational pull shapes tides that fill and empty coastal ecosystems. Its light illuminates nocturnal journeys of countless creatures, casting soft shadows in forests, deserts, and oceans. In its phases, humans have long found rhythm. Ancient cultures watched it to measure months, to plant crops, to mark celebrations, and to tell stories. They wove myths around its glow, imagined gods and spirits dwelling within its shadows, and let it mark the cycles of life. Its constancy became a gentle anchor, a reliable pulse amid the changing tides of the world. And yet, the moon is more than we can fully understand. Its far side remains largely unseen, its surface untouched except for a few carefully chosen expeditions. Rocks collected over decades offer fragments of an ancient story. Footprints left by a handful of humans are brief traces, fleeting impressions on an enduring witness. Its presence has been constant, but interactions have been delicate and small. Its story is recorded in subtle marks, a language written in shadows and craters, awaiting interpretation by patient observers. If we allow imagination to stretch, the moon becomes a silent participant in life on Earth. It has watched early humans gather, children playing in the light of full moons, elders whispering legends of the world beyond. It has seen first farmers adjust planting to lunar cycles, early civilizations align temples and monuments with its phases. It has witnessed struggles and triumphs, births and losses, cycles of life that repeat and evolve, carried on oceans and winds, under the steady watch of this distant companion. Even further, we can imagine subtle dualities. The moon is far away, yet intimately connected. Its presence stabilizes our planet, yet it remains untouched by our hands for the most part. Its surface bears the marks of cataclysms billions of years ago, yet it continues its gentle guidance, pulling tides, influencing rhythms, and marking time. There is awe in this paradox, gratitude for constancy, wonder for mysteries never fully revealed. It is both anchor and enigma, both observer and participant in the life of Earth. The science behind its presence is compelling. The moon's origin, whether from a massive collision, fission from Earth, or a captured body, speaks to the chaotic forces that shaped the early solar system. Debris spun outward, coalescing into a companion that would stabilize Earth's rotation influence climate patterns, and shape life over eons. Chaos gave birth to constancy. Violence gave rise to calm. And in this pattern, the moon quietly intervened in ways subtle yet profound. It is fascinating to consider how time stretches differently across its surface. Craters form from impacts that occurred billions of years ago, each one a snapshot of cosmic violence frozen in pale rock. Shadows shift across plains of ancient basalt, recording time through light. Each scar, ridge, and smooth expanse tells a story of distance, collision, and entrance. And while it is uninhabited, it is not irrelevant. Its gravity molds tides, its phases guide nocturnal rhythms, and its presence shapes the cycles that make life possible. We can even imagine traces of life or activity once observed from afar. Perhaps ancient humans, watching its light reflected in rivers or oceans, felt guided, reassured, or inspired. Perhaps early wildlife, responding to tides and illumination, migrated and bred according to rhythms set by its subtle pull. These are interactions small in scale, magnified across the canvas of time. The moon becomes both partner and observer, an influence we sense, but cannot fully measure. Its subtle mysteries invite us to consider dualities of experience. On one hand, the moon is removed from daily human life. Its surface is silent, empty, untouched except by rare footprints. On the other, its influence is profoundly felt, shaping coastlines, the tides of rivers, and nocturnal behaviors. Its light evokes myths, rituals, and wonder. It reminds us that the world extends beyond immediate perception, that life, history, and time are interconnected in ways we rarely consider. In imagining ancient Earth under its glow, we might even consider subtle anomalies. Perhaps early civilizations left traces that intersected with lunar observation. Structures aligned, rituals timed, patterns in stone suggesting an understanding now forgotten. Small artifacts washed into rivers, hints of tools or remnants of life, seemingly mundane, but suggesting larger systems and practices. Each fragment a whisper of history, urging us to wonder what has been lost to erosion, time, and memory. And yet, even as we reflect on the moon's constancy, Earth itself is never still. Mountains rise and fall, rivers carve valleys, forests shift, deserts expand and contract. Life adapts, evolves, and sometimes disappears. The moon is steady in this flux, a silent witness to both growth and decay. Its presence is a thread running through the chaos, a compulse against which the story of Earth unfolds. Consider the quiet interactions we take for granted. Tides shape estuaries that nurture fish and birds. Coastal plants flourish under cycles of inundation. Nighttime illumination allows some species to hunt, others to hide. And humans, who have observed the moon for millennia, incorporate it into rituals, calendars, and stories. Its influence is subtle yet woven into the fabric of life itself. We might also glimpse the moon's role in time itself. By stabilizing Earth's axial tilt, it moderates seasonal shifts. Without it, climates could fluctuate more wildly, ecosystems might be more volatile, and life might adapt in unpredictable ways. Its presence has shaped history without direct intervention, guiding life and environment alike with quiet authority. And so, as we watch the moon tonight, imagine it tracing its orbit silently above you. Feel the pull it exerts on oceans, rivers, and creatures. Sense the histories it has observed, from the earliest stirrings of life to human civilizations that have gazed up in wonder. Consider the subtle mysteries, the marks in rock, the traces of influence felt but unseen. Let these reflections drift gently into your awareness. Its surface invites contemplation. Ancient craters, smooth maria, subtle ridges, and shadows speak of time measured in billions of years. The far side, forever hidden, remains an enigma. Even fragments brought back from lunar missions hint at violent beginnings and patient endurance. Every mark tells of distance, collision, and quiet passage. And while we may never know all its secrets, its presence continues to guide, to shape, and to inspire. Tonight, let your mind drift along with its orbit. Imagine silvery light spilling across landscapes, forests, oceans, and mountains. Feel the gentle rhythm of tides and nocturnal life influenced by this quiet companion. Sense continuity across eons, linking past, present, and future in a shared cosmic dance. Its constancy is a gentle lull, a meditation in silver and shadow, a bridge between imagination, memory, and wonder. And as we begin this journey, know that the moon watches and remembers. Its silent presence carries stories, rhythms, and influence far beyond our comprehension. It is a guide, a witness, and a reminder of the delicate balance that sustains life on Earth. Its glow offers a quiet invitation to reflect, to wonder, and to drift gently into the contemplation of worlds beyond immediate perception. As the moon drifts across the night sky, we find ourselves reflecting on how its presence has shaped not only our environment, but also the ways humans have experienced time. For millennia, the moon has been the silent metronome of human history. Before the invention of clocks or calendars, its cycles were the clockwork of the sky. A thin crescent told farmers when to plant, a full glow signaled gathering, and the dark of the new moon gave space for endings and beginnings alike. Imagine ancient coastlines where people stood, gazing at its reflection in the water. The tide rose higher under its pull, and in that rising, fish gathered closer to shore. Communities learned these rhythms, passing them down in quiet instruction, not as theory, but as lived practice. Their survival depended upon an awareness of the moon's gentle tug. For them, it was not simply a light in the sky. It was a companion woven into their days, as essential as rainfall or sunlight. Yet beyond these practical gifts, the moon also became a canvas for imagination. Its changing face suggested transformation. Its regular cycles whispered of renewal, and its steady return reminded humanity of continuity and a world often chaotic. One can almost picture small groups sitting around fires, watching it rise above distant hills, creating stories to explain its glow. Was it a guardian spirit, a deity, a mirror to Earth itself? These stories offered comfort, but also hinted at the unexplainable. Something larger than themselves had written its presence into the world. While modern science explains much of the moon's orbit and origin, these older perceptions still carry meaning. They remind us that mystery itself is a kind of wisdom, that not everything needs to be fully solved for it to shape our lives deeply. In many ways, the ancients were not entirely wrong. The moon does guide. It does affect cycles of growth, reproduction, and migration. It does stabilize the earth and, in doing so, ensure life as we know it could flourish. Their myths carry truth, even if told in stories rather than equations. And yet, if we stretch our imaginations just slightly further, we might wonder whether the moon carries memories older than human history. Perhaps its surface has seen things forgotten by our world, strange objects washed to our shores in ages past, fragments that made no sense and were cast aside, may once have been part of greater mysteries. The way paleontologists reconstruct entire creatures from a single bone, so to cut a single misplaced fragment, suggests something far larger, something once whole, but now eroded by time. The moon, with its untouched surface, may still preserve the whispers of such stories. Its craters, after all, are scars of cosmic encounters. They speak of an era when the skies were less quiet, when great collisions reshaped worlds. On Earth, erosion, water, and life gradually soften such wounds. But on the moon, without weather or oceans, time hardly moves. A crater a billion years old remains fresh to the eye. It is as if the moon has become a museum of the solar system, preserving records Earth itself has long since erased. This contrast draws us into contemplation. Earth is full of renewal, growth, and decay, while the moon holds on to permanence, silence, and memory. And in that contrast lies a strange beauty. On Earth, the lushness of forests, the shifting of rivers, and the rise and fall of civilizations embody impermanence. On the moon, stillness reigns, its face forever watching, unchanged except by impacts too distant for us to see. Together, they mirror dual aspects of existence: change and constancy, movement and stillness, birth and preservation, neither complete on its own, but together forming the fabric of experience we inhabit. In this duality, a subtle sense of longing arises, for though Earth's abundance is what gives us life, there is something almost enviable about the moon's permanence. No storms to sweep away memory, no floods to wash clean the traces of what came before, no forests to conceal what once was. If a civilization had ever left its mark there, it might still remain, a quiet testament etched into the silence. Here on Earth, the same is not true. Time erodes, consumes, transforms. Even the greatest monuments fall back into the soil. What survives are fragments, stones, shards, bones that invite speculation but never fully satisfy it. And so the moon becomes not only a companion but a mirror for what we lack. We have life, motion, change, but we do not have permanence. We live within a tide of erosion, growth, and collapse. Our stories, our structures, our very bodies are returned to the earth in cycles. The moon, however, remembers. It holds every scar, every mark, every piece of history written upon its surface. Its memory is long, while ours is fragile. And perhaps this is why we are drawn to it. Because deep down, we sense that it knows something we do not. Something we have lost. Even now, scientists who study the moon speak of discoveries that suggest a shared history between it and Earth. Traces of ancient volcanic flows tell of immense eruptions long before our planet stabilized. Subtle shifts in its orbit may have influenced climate patterns, shaping when ice ages came and went. The moon has not only been present, it has been a participant in Earth's story. Without it, tides would vanish, seasons would grow unstable. Life itself might have taken a different path. In this sense, the moon is not just an observer, but a quiet architect, guiding the stage upon which life plays out. And yet, its silence remains. It does not speak. It does not explain. It does not reveal its hidden side willingly. The far side, the dark side, is never visible from Earth, locked away by tidal forces. We only know it exists because we sent machines to orbit and photograph it. Before then, it was an unseen realm, a mystery hidden in plain sight. How many generations gazed upward, unaware that half of their companion was forever withheld from view? This too feels like a reminder. that even what seems constant and familiar may hold secrets just beyond our sight. As the moon hangs above us, these thoughts stretch like shadows across the mind. It is both comfort and enigma. It grounds us, yet invites us to wonder. It reflects sunlight with cold precision, yet warms the imagination with countless stories. It is silent, yet it speaks in ways deeper than words. And as we drift under its glow, it becomes difficult to tell whether we are observing it or whether it is observing us. If we look at the moon not only as an object of science, but also as a keeper of human imagination, we begin to see how it bridges the gap between what is known and what is felt. Across cultures, across time, the moon has stood as one of the rare constants. Civilizations rose and fell, languages were born and forgotten, but always there, in the night sky, was the same pale orb, and so it became a universal thread, woven into stories from every corner of the world. In some traditions, the moon was a watchful guardian, a silent protector of travelers moving under its glow. In others, it was a trickster, changing shape to remind people of the impermanence of life. Farmers aligned planting cycles with its phases, poets aligned metaphors with its glow. For lovers separated by distance, it became a shared companion, a reminder that though apart, both could look upon the same light. Its meaning shifted, but its presence never faltered. Yet, while human beings saw the moon as a reflection of their own inner lives, the moon itself remained untouchable, remote. No matter how close it looked, it could not be reached, at least, not until very recently in human history. For most of our time on Earth, it was simply beyond reach. That distance gave it a certain sacredness. It was a mystery that asked not to be solved, but to be lived with. And in that way, it became part of the rhythm of existence itself. But there is another way to imagine the moon, one that requires quiet speculation. If its surface preserves every scar from billions of years, then perhaps it also preserves echoes of things no longer found on Earth. The faint trace of dust that once fell from a collision, the imprint of a fragment that drifted through space, the subtle whisper of an ancient storm. These are not just remnants of geology, they are remnants of time itself. The moon's surface is a page upon which the solar system has written its story. Unlike Earth, which erases and rewrites, the moon has kept every draft. This raises a quiet but intriguing thought. Could something once present on Earth, long erased, still exist there in some form? A shard of rock blown into orbit, a trace of atmosphere carried outward in a cataclysm, a small, unassuming clue that would make no sense in isolation, but, like a fragment of bone, might hint at something once greater. We cannot know for certain, but the possibility lingers, subtle and persistent, inviting curiosity without demanding an answer. And this thought brings us back to Earth itself. When we study our own landscapes, we see how time washes away detail, softens edges, and obscures origins. Mountains are worn down, rivers carve new paths, forests grow where once there were deserts. And with each change, evidence of what came before is hidden. What we call history is, in truth, only the small portion that survived this relentless erosion. The rest is gone, or so altered that it becomes unrecognizable. A pottery shard here, a broken pillar there, a fossilized bone beneath layers of stone. From these fragments, we reconstruct entire worlds. But imagine if Earth had been more like the moon. Imagine if every scar remained untouched, every trace preserved. Would we then see a clear, continuous record of all that came before us? Or would the sheer weight of that memory be too much to bear? Perhaps it is this duality that gives Earth and Moon their strange harmony. One forgets, the other remembers. One thrives in cycles of change. The other rests in silence, holding on to every mark, every story, every collision. This duality also mirrors something within us. Human beings are creatures of memory, but also of forgetting. We pass down stories, yet details fade. We hold on to certain moments, while others dissolve with time. Our lives are filled with fragments, much like the scattered remnants we find buried in the earth. And in a way, the moon becomes a reflection of what we wish we could do. Remember everything, hold on to everything, preserve it exactly as it was. But perhaps forgetting is just as necessary as remembering. Without it, we would never move forward, never grow, never allow space for the new. And so, gazing at the moon is not just an act of observation, it is also an act of reflection. It reminds us of the permanence we lack, but also of the impermanence that gives life its urgency. Without impermanence, there would be no change, no evolution, no renewal. Without permanence, there would be no anchor, no memory, no history. Earth and Moon together embody this balance, showing us that both are needed for life to have meaning. Still, even with this understanding, there remains a sense of mystery that clings to the moon. Its quiet glow invites more than scientific explanation. It invites story, speculation, wonder, and perhaps that is its greatest gift. For even now, when we know more about its surface than our ancestors ever could have imagined, it still draws us into questions that reach beyond facts. What if it has seen more than we realize? What if it carries secrets that time has hidden from Earth? What if, in its silence, it has always been trying to tell us something we have not yet learned how to hear? As these questions stir in the mind, the moon remains steady, unchanged. It does not answer. It does not shift its course. It simply continues to rise and fall, reflecting sunlight into the night. And in that silence, we are left with space for our own imagination. The moon's silence has always been its most captivating quality. Unlike Earth, which hums with sound and movement, the moon offers no noise, no wind, no rushing waters. It exists in a stillness that feels almost otherworldly, as though it belongs not just to the cosmos, but to a realm outside of time itself. When astronauts first walked upon its surface, they described a silence so profound that it felt heavier than sound. A silence that pressed against them, as if the absence of noise was itself a kind of presence. That silence has a way of drawing us inward. When we gaze at the moon, we may not notice it immediately, but our breathing slows, our thoughts soften. We become aware of the quiet between words, between moments. Perhaps this is why the moon has so often been linked with sleep, with dreams, with the unseen layers of the mind. It is not only a light in the night sky, it is also an invitation to pause, to listen, to sink into the calm beneath the noise of daily life. Yet within this calm, something more. The moon's surface, covered in craters and dust, tells a story of unimaginable violence. Every mark is the record of an impact. Some were small, others catastrophic, each one leaving its signature upon the landscape. And because the moon has no atmosphere, no weather, no erosion, those scars remain as fresh as the day they were formed. In this way, the silence we see is not just peaceful, it is also deceptive. Beneath it lies a history of fire and collision, of chaos frozen into stillness. This duality, the quiet surface and the violent past, mirrors the way we often experience life. On the outside, things may seem calm, ordinary, steady, but beneath the surface, each of us carries the impacts of our own histories. Some leave small impressions, barely visible. Others leave deep craters, reshaping the landscape of who we are. Like the moon, we preserve these marks in ways both visible and invisible. Some are easily seen, others exist quietly, influencing us even when they cannot be named. In thinking of the moon as a record of impacts, one might also wonder about Earth's own forgotten scars. Here, storms erase footprints. Rivers carry away sediment, mountains rise and fall. Entire civilizations are buried beneath soil, stone, or sea. The Earth heals and reshapes itself, and in doing so, much is lost. What remains is fragmentary, scattered, incomplete, yet on the moon, none of this has occurred. There, the story remains intact, every mark preserved, every fragment held, and so, the moon becomes not only a mirror of human memory, but also a library of cosmic history, holding chapters that Earth has long since rewritten or erased. When we reflect on this, a curious thought arises. If fragments of Earth's past have been carried into space, if collisions or eruptions once cast small pieces outward, might they still remain, preserved on the moon's surface? Could some ancient trace of our own planet lie hidden among the dust and stone? Something that no longer exists here, but survives there, untouched. The idea is not entirely out of reach. Scientists have speculated that lunar soil could hold tiny pieces of Earth ejected during massive impacts billions of years ago. And if this is so, then the moon is not just a witness to history. It is also a keeper of Earth's forgotten past. This possibility invites the imagination to wander further. If a small piece of Earth can be preserved on the moon, what other stories might be written there? Could a fragment of atmosphere, a trace of water, a clue to worlds that came before us still rest within that silence? Even if the evidence is subtle, even if it is nothing more than dust indistinguishable from other dust, the potential is enough to stir wonder. It suggests that what we see is separate the Earth and the moon are in truth bound together, sharing a history more entangled than we realize. But perhaps the most profound connection is not in the fragments of stone or dust, but in the way the moon shapes human life. Its gravity draws the tides, pulling the oceans back and forth in a rhythm older than humanity itself. This movement of water guided the earliest life, influenced migration, and continues to shape ecosystems today. Even in its silence, the moon speaks through the sea. Every wave is, in some small way, an echo of the moon's pull. It is a reminder that we are not separate from it, but part of the same dance. And this dance extends beyond the physical. The cycles of the moon have long guided human rituals, marking the passage of time, aligning with celebrations, planting, harvest, and reflection. Even now, though we rely on clocks and calendars, there is something deeply grounding in looking up at the moon and knowing exactly where we are within its cycle. The crescent, the full, the waning, it is a rhythm that transcends human invention. It is a rhythm as old as the Earth itself. This awareness, subtle yet profound, deepens the sense that the moon is not just a distant rock, not just a satellite, but something more, a companion, a partner, a witness. Its silence holds stories we may never fully uncover, yet its presence continues to guide, to soothe, and to inspire. In its light and in its shadows, it offers us a way of seeing ourselves and our world more clearly. When we speak of the moon's cycles, we often think of them as symbols. A waxing crescent feels like growth, a full moon like culmination, a waning moon like release. These interpretations are poetic, yet they are rooted in something tangible. For thousands of years, farmers observed how crops responded to these phases. Fishermen noticed how tides rose and fell in harmony with its pull. Even animals, from turtles nesting on beaches to coral spawning in the sea, time their lives by the moon's glow. The symbolism, then, was never just metaphor. It was observation woven into meaning. What fascinates us today is how these rhythms remain unchanged. Long before the first calendar was drawn, before the first clock measured an hour, there was the moon, a steady marker in the sky, reminding us that time is not only something we count, but also something we feel. Each phase has its own atmosphere, its own quiet influence on the world. Even now, people report sleeping differently beneath a full moon, as though its brightness seeps into dreams, stretching them into new shapes. It is here, in this connection between the moon and the human mind, that mystery deepens. What is it about that pale glow that stirs such emotion? Why does it inspire both awe and unease? Part of the answer may lie in contrast. The sun gives light that reveals everything. The moon gives light that conceals as much as it illuminates. Its glow softens edges, cloaks details, turns landscapes into silhouettes. It leaves space for the imagination to wander, to fill in what is unseen. In this way, the moon does not simply show us the world. It shows us the space between certainty and mystery. This quality has shaped stories for as long as we can remember. Folklore across culture speaks of beings who live on the moon, of lovers separated by distance, of gods who embody its light. Some tales describe the moon as a guide, others as a trickster, still others as a mirror of human struggle, waxing and waning as we do. These myths are varied, yet all share a reverence for the moon's dual nature. It is constant and yet changing, familiar and yet unreachable, a reminder of cycles and an invitation to dream. And though such stories may seem like relics of the past, they linger in us still. Modern science explains the moon in terms of rock, dust, and orbit. Yet even armed with this knowledge, we cannot quite shake the sense that it means something more. To step outside on a clear night and see its pale glow hanging above is to feel part of a story larger than ourselves. A story that no equation, however precise, can fully capture. This tension between what we know and what we feel is itself worth considering. We are beings of reason, capable of measuring the moon's mass, predicting its phases, even planning journeys to its surface. But we are also beings of wonder, moved by beauty, stirred by silence, awakened by mystery. The moon bridges these two aspects of us. It satisfies the mind with its patterns and challenges the heart with its presence. It is both an object of study and a well of inspiration. And as we reflect on its influence, we might also consider how different life would be without it. The moon stabilizes Earth's tilt, ensuring that seasons remain steady. Without it, climate would shift wildly, making survival far more difficult. Its gravity pulls at our oceans, creating the tides that shape coastlines and nurture marine life. Its very presence has been essential to the flourishing of life as we know it. The moon is not only a companion, but a foundation, a quiet architect of balance. Knowing this changes how we look at it. That pale light in the sky is not simply beautiful, it is vital. It is not only a witness to Earth's story, but also a participant, a force that continues to shape the world in ways we barely notice. And this awareness, subtle yet profound, invites gratitude. Each time the moon rises, we are reminded not just of its mystery, but of its gift. Without it, we might not be here at all. This gratitude mingles with something else, humility. To look at the moon is to feel small, to realize that we are part of something vast and enduring. Its cycles will continue long after we are gone, just as they began long before we arrived. And yet, within that smallness, there is also comfort. To be part of a rhythm so ancient is to know that we belong, that in some quiet way, we are aligned with the same forces that guide oceans, seasons, and stars. As we carry this thought further, it becomes clear that the moon is not separate from us. It is woven into our existence, shaping us even as we admire it. We may stand beneath it, but in truth, we also carry it within us, in the rhythm of our days, in the pull of our waters, in the stories we tell. The moon is not only above us, it is a thread in the fabric of who we are. To follow the moon's story is also to follow the passage of time itself, not in hours or minutes, but in cycles. The moon waxes, it wanes, it returns, always familiar, never quite the same. That rhythm is comforting, yet beneath it lies another, slower beat, one that spans not months, but ages. For the moon, too, is changing, though we rarely notice. It is drifting away from Earth, inch by inch each year, imperceptible to us, yet steady. Millions of years from now, it will no longer appear as large as it does today. The perfect symmetry of moon and sun, the alignment that gives us eclipses, will eventually fade. When we realize this, a new layer of wonder unfolds. The sky we see now is temporary. The balance that shapes our view is fleeting, a gift of this particular moment in Earth's story. The ancestors who watched the moon thousands of years ago saw much the same as we do, but those who come far after us will not. In that sense, every glance we take is rare. Every rising of the moon is an event that will one day no longer be possible. This awareness makes its glow even more precious. And yet, even as its position changes, its influence remains. The same pull that lifts the tides also stirs something quieter within us. Perhaps it is instinct, perhaps memory, perhaps imagination. The moon calls us to reflect on cycles of growth and release, on the passage of beginnings and endings. It does not demand attention the way the sun does. It waits, silent and patient, until we notice. And when we do, it offers not answers, but questions. Questions that stretch us beyond what is visible. One cannot help but wonder how earlier civilizations interpreted this relationship. Long before telescopes, they knew the moon mattered. Its light guided night travel. Its timing guided harvest. Its shadows inspired myth. Even when they did not fully understand its mechanics, they understood its importance. Their rituals, their songs, their architecture aligned with lunar rhythms. Stone circles marked its rise, stories preserved its meaning. In these ways, they honored not only the moon, but the connection between heaven and earth, between sky and soil. Our modern world often forgets this. Artificial light has dimmed our awareness of night. Clocks and calendars replace the need to watch the sky. Yet, when we do pause, when we lift our eyes to the quiet glow above, something ancient stirs. We remember, if only faintly, that our ancestors once lived by these cycles, that we too are shaped by them, even if we no longer build our days around their flow. The moon becomes a bridge, not just between night and day, but between past and present. A reminder that time is not only measured, it is felt. There is also something profound in the way the moon reflects light. It does not shine on its own. It borrows radiance from the sun and softens it into something gentler. In this, the moon is a metaphor. It reminds us that beauty does not always come from generating, but from reflecting, from transforming what we receive into something new. Perhaps that is why so many have compared it to a mirror, one that does not simply show the world, but shows us ourselves. The landscapes it reveals are equally telling. A world bathed in moonlight is different from one under the sun. Edges blur, shadows lengthen, familiar places become unfamiliar, carrying a mystery that invites curiosity. It is a kind of in-between space, not quite day, not fully night. A space that asks us to slow down, to wonder, to wonder. Many have described moonlight as calming, and it is true, but it is also quietly transformative. It changes how we perceive, and in doing so, it changes how we think. Even in its silence, the moon speaks of duality, brightness and shadow, nearness and distance, change and constancy. It is this duality that gives it depth, that keeps it endlessly compelling. We are drawn to it not because it is simple, but because it contains opposites. It holds them without conflict, as though to remind us that life, too, is built of contrasts, that our own existence, like the moon's phases, contains both light and dark, both fullness and emptiness, each with its own meaning. Perhaps this is why the moon has endured, not just as a celestial body, but as a symbol across cultures. It is universal, accessible to all, yet interpreted in countless ways. To one person, it is a guardian. To another, a clock. To another still, a muse. And in each of these roles, it remains what it has always been, a silent companion, steady in the sky, offering its presence without demand. To imagine the moon only as a distant sphere of rock is to overlook the way it has touched every corner of earthly life. Consider the tides. Twice each day, oceans rise and fall under its pull, shaping coastlines, guiding migrations, and marking the rhythm of entire ecosystems. Without this balance, the seas would be different, and perhaps so would life itself. The very earliest creatures that ventured from water to land may have timed their journeys by the cycles of the tide. In this sense, the moon has been not only a companion, but a catalyst, a quiet architect of life's possibilities. And yet, as familiar as tides seem, they carry with them traces of a much deeper story. There are beaches where ancient ripple marks are preserved in stone, patterns frozen from times when the oceans moved differently, when the moon was closer, when its pull was stronger. To run one's fingers over those ridges is to touch both water and time, to feel the invisible hand of the moon across hundreds of millions of years. Each mark is a reminder that what we take as constant is anything but. Even the rhythms we trust most are shifting beneath our feet. The moon's shaping does not end with the seas. It has guided the flow of human culture as well. Farmers learn to plant by its cycles, building entire calendars around its phases. Travelers used it to orient themselves at night, long before compasses or satellites. Even the way we tell time bears its imprint. The word month itself comes from the moon, a unit of life measured not by the sun, but by the turning of its pale face. In this way, the moon has slipped into our languages, our rituals, our measurements of life, becoming part of our very framework of existence. But there are subtler ways it has influenced us, ways less about function and more about feeling. Many cultures speak of the moon's pull not only on water, but on emotion. Its fullness has been linked with surges of energy, its absence with quiet reflection. Whether this is literal or symbolic hardly matters. What matters is that across countless generations, people have looked up and felt something stir. A shift in mood, in thought, in perspective, a recognition that the world is not only mechanical, but alive with patterns that touch us on levels beyond the physical. It is here that the moon's dual nature appears again. Science explains its gravity, its reflection, its orbit. Yet science does not diminish its mystery. If anything, it deepens it. For to know that this quiet companion shapes oceans, guides ecosystems, and subtly alters the very balance of Earth is to be filled with awe. It is to realize that what looks like stillness is power, that what seems simple is, in truth, essential. There are also remnants of times when people reached beyond mere observation and began to weave the moon into their stories of creation. In some traditions, it was a sibling to the sun, equal in importance, sharing the sky in turn. In others, it was a wanderer, a messenger, a keeper of secrets. These myths may differ in their details, but they share a common thread. The moon is never absent. It always plays a role, always matters, even when unseen. It is remembered. We might pause here and reflect on the duality of memory itself. The moon has no atmosphere, no weather, no rivers to erase its past. Its surface holds scars that endure for billions of years. Every crater tells a story of collision, of impact, of survival. Compare this to Earth, where mountains rise and fall, where rivers carve valleys, where life constantly remakes the surface. Here, the past is often hidden, buried beneath growth and change. There, on the moon, it is written plainly. A library in stone, untouched by time's erosion. This contrast is striking. On Earth, we forget quickly. On the moon, nothing is forgotten. Perhaps that is why we are drawn to it with such intensity. It offers permanence in a world that is otherwise fleeting. It reminds us that, while our own lives may pass, there are records written beyond us, etched into the wider fabric of the cosmos. The moon becomes not only a light in the sky, but a kind of memory keeper, holding what we cannot. And still, its influence reaches further. Without the moon, Earth's tilt would wobble chaotically, seasons would shift unpredictably, climates would swing wildly. The stability that allows life to flourish depends, in part, on this companion's steady pull. In that sense, the moon is not just a reflection of beauty, but a guardian of balance, a silent presence ensuring that the world remains habitable, that the fragile patterns of life continue. We live beneath its influence, whether we notice or not. The seas, the seasons, the rhythms of life all carry its signature, and yet, it asks nothing in return. It does not compete for our attention the way the sun does. It does not burn or overwhelm. It simply waits, steady, offering itself to anyone who looks. That humility, too, is part of its allure. In its quiet presence, we find a mirror of what it means to be both powerful and gentle, both influential and unassuming. If we follow the moon further into the heart of human experience, we find its presence lingering in places less obvious, but no less profound. Poetry, song, painting all are filled with its light, a symbol of longing, of cycles, of change. Artists across centuries have leaned on its quiet glow to capture feelings too large for words alone. Lovers write to it, wanderers sing beneath it. Even in the silence of ancient caves, circles carved into stone suggest early hands marking its phases, trying to catch its rhythm and hold it close. This act of recording is worth lingering on. To mark the moon's cycles is to notice time differently. Days may be counted by the sun, but months, the slow unfolding of life, are measured by the moon. Births, harvests, rituals of gathering and mourning all once turned in step with its phases. To watch it wax and wane is to understand that all things move in cycles, growth, decline, renewal. A pattern that comforts because it reflects the truth of life itself. But just as the moon reveals itself in cycles, it also hides. There are nights when it disappears entirely, and with that disappearance comes both unease and mystery. In darkness, people once wondered if it had died, or if it was traveling to other worlds, visiting unseen places before returning. The absence created space for imagination. And perhaps that is the gift the moon has given more than any other, the room for wonder, a reminder that not everything we see is everything there is. Consider for a moment the sky without it. A world where nights are only stars and blackness, where no gentle light hovers above, no guide to mark the passage of months. Such a world would feel emptier, more uncertain. The moon offers orientation, even when unseen. Its presence shapes the very way we relate to the night. It softens the dark, makes it less absolute. Without it, the boundary between day and night would be sharper, less forgiving. And yet, for all its comfort, the moon also carries an edge of strangeness. Its size in the sky is an extraordinary coincidence, matching the sun's almost perfectly. This is why we can experience total eclipses, when the moon slips in front of the sun and reveals the glowing corona. Such alignments are not inevitable. In other star systems, moons are small spakes, barely noticeable. Here, we are granted a balance that allows for a spectacle both rare and profound. The odds of such symmetry are slim, and yet, here it is, written into our sky. When we look back into history, eclipses have always been charged moments. They frighten some cultures, inspired or in others. To see day turn briefly into night, to see the sun itself obscured by this wandering companion, was to feel the universe reveal its hidden mechanics. Today, we explain it with orbits and geometry. But even so, when the shadow sweeps across the land, silence still falls. People still look upward, still feel that tingle of something larger at play. The moon has a way of turning science into wonder, and wonder back into science. There are other coincidences too. The moon's gradual retreat from Earth, slipping away by a few centimeters each year, is a reminder that nothing is fixed forever. The tides will change, the length of days will stretch, our nights, far in the future, will look different from the ones we know now. Imagine a world where the moon is smaller in the sky, its pull weaker, its presence dimmer. Life will adapt, as it always does. But something will be missing. The balance we know will tilt. What feels eternal will be revealed as temporary. This brings us into the quiet recognition of time's sweep. Just as ancient ripple marks tell us of tides long gone, so too does the moon tell us of futures we will never see. It is both a record of the past and a marker of the endless unfolding ahead. To think of it this way is to feel both humbled and comforted. Humbled because we are small against such scales. Comforted because even in change, there is continuity. The moon has been with us since the first sparks of life, and it will remain long after. And yet, within this vast perspective, we are allowed to feel intimacy. The moon does not seem unreachable in the way stars do. It feels near enough to touch, near enough to belong to us. We have walked upon it, left footprints that remain untouched by wind or rain. Those prints, fragile as they may seem, will outlast cities, languages, even nations. They are humanity's signatures, written into a place that has always been beyond our grasp. That closeness, that blend of distance and intimacy, makes the moon unlike anything else in the night sky. Perhaps this is why we feel so connected to it. It is both vast and personal, both eternal and fleeting, a paradox that mirrors our own existence. To look at the moon is to see not only rock and light, but to see ourselves reflected, magnified in simplicity. It reminds us that even in the enormity of the cosmos, There are connections we can feel deeply, ties that anchor us to the greater story of the universe. There are moments when standing beneath the moon that it feels almost like a silent witness, watching, patient and changing in its gaze. Empires have risen and collapsed under its glow. Languages have been born, flourished, and disappeared while it hovered in the same sky. Mountains have been eroded to dust, rivers have shifted courses, forests have stretched and receded, and through it all, the moon has remained a constant presence, recording these changes in its quiet orbit. If we consider the stories of humanity, the moon has always been there, woven into our mythologies and dreams. In some traditions, it is a goddess, in others, a trickster or a guide. There are cultures that saw its phases as expressions of divinity, and others who believed it controlled not just tides, but the very rhythms of fertility and life. These myths may vary, but the thread they share is reverence. Even before telescopes and equations, there was awe. And awe has always been the first step toward knowledge. When science finally reached the moon, when spacecraft first touched its surface, there was both triumph and humility. Triumph in the ability to cross that void. Humility in the realization of how barren it truly is. Grey dust, rocks, silence, yet that barrenness is not emptiness. It is a canvas, one that carries the scars of time. Craters are not just holes in the ground, but records of collisions stretching back billions of years. To walk among them would be to stroll through a library of cosmic events. Each impact a page, each ridge a sentence, written by the universe itself. But if the moon's surface is a book of the past, it also points us toward the future. It is the nearest stepping stone to other worlds. The testing ground for survival beyond Earth. Some dream of colonies, of stations built beneath its surface, of gardens grown under domes, reflecting its pale light. Whether or not these visions take form, the moon remains a symbol of possibility. It reminds us that the horizon of human experience is never fixed, always expanding. Just as our ancestors once looked beyond the next hill or across the ocean, we now look upward. Yet, it is also worth asking what we leave behind in this pursuit. The moon is not only a scientific object, it is part of our collective imagination. To see it dotted with lights or carved into industry would change how we dream of it. Perhaps progress will demand this, perhaps reverence will hold it back. Either way, the moon's story is entwined with ours. Its next chapters will be shaped not only by gravity and time, but by our choices. Still, even as we imagine futures, the present moment holds its own beauty. Step outside on a night when the moon hangs full and bright, and you will notice how shadows change, how colors soften into silver, how familiar paths seem otherworldly beneath its glow. The world itself transforms under that light. It is a reminder that even the ordinary holds mystery, if only we see it through a different lens. The moon offers that lens freely, night after night. There is also a quiet humility in knowing how much it influences us without our noticing. The tides that shape coastlines, the subtle tug on Earth's axis that stabilizes our seasons. Without the moon, the world we know would not exist in the same way. It is easy to overlook, to treat its presence as background. But in truth, it is a partner in the shaping of Earth itself, a silent architect, guiding patterns of life across eons. And within that recognition, there comes gratitude. Gratitude for the constancy of its presence. Gratitude for the light it lends to the night. Gratitude for the stories it has inspired and the balance it sustains. In a universe so vast, where so much feels distant and unreachable, the moon reminds us that the extraordinary can be close at hand, that wonder does not always demand distance. Sometimes it hovers just above the horizon, waiting for us to look up. There is something deeply reassuring about the moon's quiet rhythm. Long before clocks and calendars, it was there to count time for us. Its cycles marked planting seasons, celebrations, and migrations. Even today, in the background of modern life, its pull continues to keep the world in balance. Without it, our nights would be darker, our tides less predictable, our climate far more unstable, and perhaps our sense of place in the universe diminished. When you think about it, the moon is more than a satellite. It is a companion, a constant reminder that we are not drifting through the void entirely alone. It reflects back to us not just light, but perspective. To look at the moon is to look at a mirror of our own history. Every civilization has known it. Every traveler has walked under its glow. Every story told beneath the stars has carried some trace of its light. And in that light, we find both humility and possibility. Humility in knowing how fragile Earth is, suspended with its luminous twin across a dark expanse. Possibility in knowing that perhaps this companion will guide us further, not just in imagination, but in reality. It may become the place where future generations will build their first homes beyond Earth, the place where humankind takes its first steps as a multi-world species. And if that day comes, the moon will once again transform from symbol to sanctuary. But for now, it is enough simply to notice, to let the soft glow spill across your window, your street, your sleeping world, to recognize that even as you breathe here on Earth, there is a rhythm above you that has endured for billions of years, a presence that connects us to the deep past and to a future still unwritten. So, as we close our thoughts tonight, take a moment to let that light settle in your mind. Feel the stillness it carries. Imagine the lives, the stories, the countless eyes that have gazed upon it before you, and those that will gaze after. You are part of that chain, linked across time by the moon's silent glow. Thank you for spending this time here, resting in thought and wonder. If you found peace or curiosity in this journey, please consider leaving a like. It helps others, like you, discover these quiet explorations. And if you wish, share where you are and what time it is for you in the comments. Together, we can see just how far the moon's light reaches, connecting us across distance. And of course, if you'd like to join again for a future Nights of Curiosity and Com, subscribing will ensure you're always welcome back. Until then, may your night be gentle, your dreams steady, and your rest deep. Good night.